Imagine that you wake up tomorrow and everything seems completely normal. You roll out of bed, brush your teeth, put your clothes on, get ready for the day. Imagine you have work. I know, I'm sorry, I'm making this a not that fun hypothetical, but you have work on this day. So you're getting ready, you're grabbing your keys and your wallet and your purse if you're a female or you just have a purse and whatever else. You have everything set for the day, packed. You get into your car, drive down 1 or 2 blocks and realize you forgot to make coffee at home. Okay. So let's set the premise for this little thought experiment. This is not a war, it's not a blackout, it's not an apocalyptic scenario, and the world isn't ending. The city is functioning as normal, everyone is going about their day-to-day. The only difference is that cards aren't working. That means no ATMs, that means no debit cards, that means no Venmo, no Zelle, whatever else people are using to pay with, Apple Pay, I use that all the time, none of it. Cards aren't working. Credit cards, a lot of people use credit cards, are on credit cards. Those aren't working. You can only pay with cash. So that's our scenario and we're gonna stay within those bounds. The thought experiment here isn't what happens if the world is ending. It's what happens if everything stays and looks normal, except for money and digital transactions no longer work. So let's step back into the coffee shop. You see the sign on the door, you walk in anyway, and the line's a little longer and you can tell that there's a couple people having some trouble. You even see someone at the front of the line helping the person behind them because they don't have any physical money. They only have 7 credit cards and Apple Pay and Zelle and this and that. So no cash on them, they can't get coffee, and the person in front of them is trying to be a good person and just pay for their coffee. The guy behind them is like, all right, well, let me Venmo you. And the guy in front is hesitant. He just wants to do a good deed, but he's like, you know what, whatever, sure, Venmo me $4. It's not the end of the world. So he gives him his Venmo and the guy tries to send it through and it just says transaction could not be completed. Please try again later. That's it. No emergency, no Venmo is down, nothing alarming in any way. Just transaction cannot be completed. I feel like I see that screen like 10 times a day. It was pretty normal. So you're waiting there in line to get your normal order and you feel almost like a throwback. Everyone's paying with cash. Some people are kind of laughing at the ridiculousness of it all and how many people don't carry cash on them. But everyone really is doing their best to minimize the situation. Most people are assuming, rightfully so, that this coffee shop or this area just isn't working right now. No one's really piecing together the idea that every online banking platform is down, or piecing together that every way of transferring money from person A to person B in our digital world is no longer working. You're about 2 spots away from placing your order, you have cash, you're ready to get your regular coffee and go on with your day, and that's what you do. So you order, they make you a nice coffee, you grab it, pay with cash, nice and easy, everything's good. You walk back to your car and you start driving to work. But in the car, you sort of start thinking about the odds that all credit cards and debit cards wouldn't be working and Venmo wouldn't be working. Because you noticed that conversation going on at the beginning of the line once you first walked into the coffee shop. So the thoughts are in your head a little bit of, that's weird, could there be a local blackout on credit and debit cards and online payment? I've never heard of that before. It doesn't seem like a thing, but you push it aside because you don't want to be the first to overreact. There's a societal pressure that's very underlying where nobody wants to be the first person to scream fire. I think we all have felt this at some point. I know I have for sure. I've been in situations where something feels off, but in a group setting, to be the person that claims that something's off, A, draws attention to yourself, and B, could possibly lead to some type of shame or embarrassment if you're wrong. So you don't want to be the person falsely claiming that something's going on when there might not be something going on. So all this is going through your head and you just decide to turn on some music and finish your commute into work without overthinking everything. So as you're vibing out to your music, having a good time on your commute to work, you look down and you momentarily hate yourself because you left yourself adult homework, which is getting gas in the morning instead of doing it last night after you got back from the gym like you knew you should have. But you see that you only have 10 miles left and you really have to get gas. So you're like, all right, maybe I'll be like 2 or 3 minutes late to work. I'm gonna go get gas before work starts because I don't wanna run out. So you pull into a gas station a few minutes away from your work, and things continue to build in terms of oddities. At first, you notice that there's way more cars in the gas station parking lot than there typically are. This could be a million things. It's rush hour, people are heading to work, maybe there's a sale on some type of Zins or something, I don't know, maybe whatever, who knows, right? Sometimes a lot of cars are in the gas station parking lot and there's not really a good reason for it. But in the back of your mind, there is a good reason for it. But we're holding on to that piece for now because we don't want to be the first person that overreacts. So you get in line in the car line and you step out and you kind of start asking people. Everyone's congregated around their cars and chatting. One person's getting their gas totally normally. The card reader worked fine for them and they're filling up their tank, and 2 other people are like, how did you do that? Can you help me? And this guy's like, nah, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get to work. I don't know what you're talking about. And everyone's like, my card reader is not working. How did this guy get his to work? It's annoying. Okay, I guess I'll go pay cash. And then it's the same sort of issue that you saw at the coffee shop now happening at the gas station. But the difference is people want coffee, people need gas. So there's an elevated tension at the gas station inside where you have a line of people almost out the door trying to pay cash for gas. A lot of them don't know that there's anything wrong with the debit or credit card. They think that the gas station reader outside is having a localized problem, so they try to pay with their debit card or credit card inside. And the cashier, after being frustrated and pressing buttons and calling his manager, just decides to go cash only for a little while. And so he announces it to the whole store, the line that's now out the door, cash only. If you don't have cash, can't get gas here. There's a station down the road. It's probably working there. You should just go head there. And everyone's like, what is happening? This is annoying, but whatever. Most people have cash, but the guy at the register currently is adamant that he has enough money in his account. He's like, I just got paid, and he pulls his phone out and he shows his bank account and there's like $4,000 in his checking account. And he's like, I have the money. It's right here. Here's my debit card. Like, he taps his debit card, transaction failed. He swipes the debit card, transaction failed. He enters the debit card, transaction failed. It's just not working. And he's more frustrated than most people are. He's not thinking deeply about the situation. The thought hasn't really crossed his mind that anything is wrong. He's taking his anger out on the cashier and the people around him, which is another normal thing that people do, unfortunately. And he's just kind of not being a good guy. The cashier ends up being like, dude, I can't help you. We're going cash only. Just try down the road. And he curses him off, whatever. He leaves, and the next person in line pays with cash. Things start flowing. Now, the issue here is the inconsistency is keeping people in denial. If everything were to have shut off all at once, it would be pretty simple and pretty clear that something was wrong. People would immediately be talking about it and it would be on all the news channels. But for this ATM to work on this street and for this guy to be able to get gas with his card outside, the inconsistency adds to that psychological phenomenon we talked about in the coffee shop, and it makes it more difficult to really get down to a conclusion on a situation that's ongoing. You end up getting gas with your remaining cash, and you drive into work, and you work for the day. And that's your day. So now that the background screen has changed back to my narrator situation, we're going to talk about the next phase of where this video is going. We're going to look at the institutional view versus the average person's view. This is where things get really interesting because the street view, as we'll call it, essentially has normal people like you and I asking, can I get gas? Can I buy groceries? Is my direct deposit payment going to be worth anything? Did I somehow get scammed? Is my money gone? Is it just my bank? Are other banks affected? All the normal questions that would run through a normal person's head, like you or I. You think of calling the bank, you think of reaching out to your credit card company, and then ultimately you come upon the thought of, how much cash do I have now? Now we step into the institution's view. They're asking completely different questions. Institutions are much quicker to jump to containment of issues. So they're asking, what's the failure domain? How far is this blackout reaching? What's going on internally? Do we know where this problem is coming from? Is it a processing problem? Is it a bank problem? Is it a telecommunications problem? Is it a coding problem? They're asking things like, what can we say publicly? What announcements can we make? Should we say something publicly? Have our competitors made any announcements? Are our competitors being affected? What's happening with the stock market? What's happening with our stock? Most importantly, what do we prioritize first? What do we do now? Regular people want certainty in the situation. They want to be told, this is happening, this is what you should do, problem solved. Institutions are focused on containing the problem and saving themselves from public ridicule and any negative light as much as possible. That's the real difference here. People just want to keep going with their everyday lives, while the institutions are focused on minimizing any damage to them. Fast forward a little bit, and now the news is live. Things spread fast, and all the power's on, and everything's working. The only thing that isn't is physical money. So news stations have picked this up. There might be some phone alerts. There's stuff all over social media. And what you hear from different channels are very, very different stories. The news is saying things like intermittent processing disruptions. Some users may be experiencing delays. No evidence of any compromise at this time. Don't worry, our teams are actively investigating. But what the people hear is, we don't know what's going on. Sit tight, hope for the best. That's the best we can do for you right now. The people are starting to not purposefully incite panic, but they're saying the quiet part out loud. The news anchors and the bigger agencies can't just come out and say, all the banking and online money is shut off. The world's gonna end. No, that's not their role. Their role is to be very controlled and measured and, welcome to the 8 p.m. news and da 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 da. So that's what they are in the process of doing, while social media is running a completely different direction as fast as they physically can. So on social media accounts, you get ideas like, the banks are down, all processing is down, money doesn't mean anything anymore, gold is king, collect your precious metals, make sure you have cash, prep, this is step one of the big doomsday, we predicted this would happen, follow us if you want to know more. This is typically what we see on the social media platforms. So there's a strong juxtaposition between the formal news anchor and the crazy social media guy just tweeting away. This is where I think it's pretty interesting to look at some of the psychology behind why the institutions are acting the way they do. It might be easy for us, and admittedly even me, to say, well, they just don't care about the average person. They are in it for the money. They're in it to save themselves. But once we dive a little deeper, we have to look at the institution as almost its own person, as its own entity, because it is. And when we do that, we think about how important it is for institutions to speak in liability-safe language. If they come out and say something that could expose them to liability in the future, they're really doing themselves a disservice in the moment. So while they might want to give their customers information, they're really serving to protect themselves, as any individual would do similarly. Both the public, or the street view, and the institutions, the institution view, are behaving the same. They're just taking two different roads to end up at similar conclusions. Or maybe a better metaphor is that they're taking the same road of rational thinking and just ending up at two different destinations. That's better. I'm not even going to cut that first one, but the second one is better. Now let's step into our favorite grocery store. we're at the store, we walk in, and we're kind of ready for what's about to hit us. We know cards are sometimes working. We know that most people are paying in cash. And this is where things are really real, because more than gas and coffee, people do need food. At the end of the day, survival is dependent upon food and water. So this is the moment where we're going to see the public shift in a way that we haven't previously seen. In the grocery store, the manager wants to stay open. He's adamant about it. He's telling his employees to just hang out, hold the line, and make sure everyone's paying in cash, except for the one register on aisle 8 that happens to be taking a card. So everyone that doesn't have cash and hasn't really caught on yet is piling up behind aisle 8, and it's like a 45-minute to 1-hour wait to get your groceries. Your ice cream's completely melted and your frozen beef is defrosted by the time you get to the actual payment section of the grocery store on aisle 8. But on aisle 2 and 3, you're getting in and out in 3, 4, 5 minutes. Here we start to see an interesting shift. Now there's an incentive to have cash, and the elite or privileged in this moment are the ones that do have cash. So while someone might have a $2 million credit line or $800,000 in the bank ready to tap their card and pay, they're poorer in this moment than the person that has $100 cash. And that's where things start to really mess with people's psychology. But we'll get to that in a little bit, I promise. Back into the grocery store, as people are making some purchases and some are struggling, the manager again is adamant about staying open. He hasn't heard anything from his corporate overlords, and so he's just telling all of his employees to do whatever they can to stay open and keep the lines moving. So employees are writing stuff down on pen and paper, trying to add up totals with their phone calculator, and things are getting pretty messy pretty quick. So the manager has a choice. Should he stay open and risk miscalculations and possibly selling food that's maybe gone bad for sitting out too long? Or should he shut down and miss on all the possible profits from that day and not be able to serve the people that he has built his career around serving? Now, here's the part that I think is going to affect you, everyone the most, and that's direct deposit payment day. On Thursday or Friday, second Friday of the week, you're getting paid for the work that you've been doing. And so you open up your app or you sign into your online banking, and great, the deposit hit, the money's there, you got paid, you're excited. If you're financially irresponsible, like me, you go and buy something or treat yourself in some way. And if you're financially responsible, maybe you transfer the money into a 401k or put it into a stock and bond, whatever. That's a different language to me. But nevertheless, you have the money, and there's a sense of pride because you worked hard for it, and there's a sense of relief because you have something to provide for yourself and a family if you have one, and things are good, right? You have the money, right? Well, kinda. See, the bank says you have the money, and the app says you have the money, and the website says you have the money, but your card doesn't work. Okay, so go to the ATM, right? The ATM doesn't work. All right, so we'll go to the bank. We'll just go directly into the bank and ask for cash. A lot of people already beat you to that idea, and the bank's no longer handing out cash. Believe it or not, they can do this. They don't hold all of your money in their bank. I don't want to get into the weeds of banking because I will get lost in them. I don't understand banking that much, but what I do know is a lot of those locations are really small and a lot of people have a lot of money. There's no possible way for some of these smaller locations or even the big locations to have millions and millions and millions of dollars in cash on hand. It's not how banking works. You put your money in an account and they use that money to invest or give it to someone else. But like your money stays in the account. It's just not physically anywhere, which is what makes this scenario so twisted. So now you're hearing things like, I got paid, I can pay the rent, or I can pay this bill that's due, but it's just not letting me send it. And the receiver is like, what do you mean? You owe me the money. And the payer is like, well, I physically can't send it. And that's an issue, clearly. And you also have the other side of things where you don't really know deep down if you have the money. You don't have anything of value. You have numbers on a screen. And as long as those ATMs are intermittently working at best and the banks aren't handing out cash and the cards aren't working, you can't use that money. So it's as if you didn't get paid and you're actually poorer than you were before when the card was working and you hadn't been paid. Because at least then, theoretically, you had money in your account and you had a way to spend that money via card. Now, this is where I think it gets really interesting in terms of the mindset of people. Because what's the first thing that you're going to do if you're not getting paid for your work? I mean, for me, I'm going to stop doing the work. And that doesn't sound great, right? But consider it. You worked really hard for 2 weeks, call it, and your standard paycheck comes in, it's in your account, but the bank hasn't given you any information. People online are saying that money doesn't matter anymore when it's in the banks. You're hearing a bunch of conflicting news. Stocks are going up and down. You don't know what's going on. Do you want to go to work? Is it worth it if you're not sure that the work you're putting in is actually putting any money in your pockets? Now, that doesn't fit everyone's scenario. A lot of people work because they love what they do, but it fits a lot of people's situations because a lot of people don't necessarily love what they do and they just have to put food on the table and make enough to live and survive. This is where things become most uncomfortable because it's no longer a technology issue and now it's a real life issue. Because the money says it's in your account, but you're no richer than you were before that notification came in. And you're starting to worry, what happens when I run out of my cash? Because it's soon. If you're not a doomsday person or hoarder, you probably don't have that much cash on you on any given day. A quick jump back into the institutional side of things. Inside the boardrooms, people are going crazy. On the outside, they portray a very put together image and everything's fine and we're working on it. But inside, no one knows what's going on because in this hypothetical, it just stops working. So they're trying to figure out from a legal perspective, risk perspective, compliance perspective, fraud perspective, is it a cyber attack? Is it whatever, a million things. And they have all these teams to handle these different inquiries and try to solve the problem. But there's no answers coming up and it doesn't really look like there's going to be an answer on the horizon. So they have to think about what they're going to say publicly, what they're going to say to us, you guys. And what they're definitely not saying publicly is that they don't know the root cause. They don't know how long it's going to last. And they don't know if the decisions that they're making now are going to be beneficial later or detrimental. Could you ever imagine a big company coming out and admitting that they have no idea what's going on? A money management company coming out and being like, we have no idea. Oops. Never in a million years would that happen. So publicly facing, they're acting like they have all their ducks in a row and everything's fine. Internally, complete chaos. Behavior starts to shift in normal people. This is what we've been doing forever. We modify to our circumstances to make the best of what we have. So you have things like the guy that has a ton of cash becomes a little bit more valuable. People start hitting them up, asking what they can trade. People start digging around under the sofa and in their bedrooms, seeing if they have any lost jewelry that they could pawn off, and seeing if anyone who has some extra cash laying around is willing to accept something that they might not even want, or the person might not want to get rid of, but they need the cash bad. And then also you have business owners that have repeat customers starting to just keep a physical tab. And they're gonna keep feeding them. If it's a restaurant or if it's a grocery store, they're gonna keep giving them food, and they're just gonna put it written down on a tab and sort of serves as a credit line. The owner knows that the patron is gonna pay him back when everything gets sorted out. There's ATM lines everywhere. Every ATM has a line of at least 40 people. Everyone thinks that they are the anomaly because every now and then a card works and cash comes through. So people are just kind of treating it like a lottery where maybe their card's going to work and maybe the cash will come through for them. But most of the time it doesn't. It's so random, and there's no way to predict which ATM is going to work, which kind of card is going to work, which bank is going to work. It's just try it out on this one and hope for the best. So some people are spending their day just going to different ATMs, using all 4 of their cards and being declined time and time again until once they finally are able to withdraw $100. And that's it for their day's work. The community starts texting each other, calling each other, letting each other know which stores are accepting cards, which ATMs are working in that moment, which gas stations are working with cards. It becomes almost a commodity and a popularity contest, literally based on what place is accepting digital payment. And it's not a lot of places. And as time goes on, less and less places are working. So it becomes even more rare to find a place that is accepting this normal payment to us, non-cash payment. And then nightfall hits. This is when things get eerie. Because again, everything is normal, kind of. All the traffic lights are on, there's still cars on the road, less, but there's still cars. And as you're driving by, imagine looking at the restaurant that's packed every single night, always has reservations. Maybe it's a quarter filled, maybe half. Everyone is staring down at their phones even more than normal. Everyone's waiting for updates. People are calling every possible emergency line that they can think of. They're calling every bank. No one has an answer. And at night, things just get weirder. For some reason, it just feels more eerie. So while you're going through a very familiar city at night, a city you've been through at night countless times, this time feels more off than you've ever seen it. As it gets deeper into the night and the sun's completely gone, it's only lit by whatever moon happens to be out that night, people are starting to take extreme measures, getting every dollar and coin they have of cash. They are hoarding essentials. They're charging up all of their technology and all of their extra batteries. People are making sure they have generators and collecting extra cans of gasoline, doing all the doomsday stuff that we can typically think of. Because put yourself in their shoes and be in this moment with me, because what are you doing if your digital money doesn't matter anymore? You're probably thinking the world is going to end tomorrow or something along those lines, because we've really become accustomed to just using Apple Pay for everything. And that's fine. That's super, super convenient, useful, easy. I don't want to have to make sure I have a certain amount of, I don't want to have to make sure I'm carrying around cash everywhere I go for every moment. I love using Apple Pay. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just not working right now. And if that's not working and we're not getting any answers as to when it's going to be fixed, what went wrong, what the possible solutions are going to be, duration, scope, anything, our minds are instantly going to go to a doomsday scenario. We're going to start thinking about, do we have enough water if the water stops? Do we have enough food if the food goes bad? Do we have a generator if the electricity turns out? If something so important as digital currency can just stop, it quickly opens our minds up to the idea that any other essential can just completely be cut off. And so we would all start acting a lot more conservative with the things that we have and making sure that our families, our neighbors, and our immediate community is taken care of. Because our place of work, where we're hoping to make $1 million one day, doesn't matter anymore. We already got that direct deposit payment. It means nothing. All that matters is the here and now. And again, if something so important such as digital currency can just stop working, what else can stop working?